vinyl and vision.
Hey folks, how we doing? Do I look like shit? I think I look like shit. Um, I have been working very hard on this episode tonight because I had a snafu and I lost the whole fucking episode. Don't know what happened to it. Just opened up the computer and it wasn't there one day. It sucks. So, my guest tonight was Rob Boyaval. I'm not really 100% on how you pronounce that, but I believe that's it. I'm sorry, Rob. I'm sorry for fucking that up. Rob is part of a band called Alstead. It's a fairly new band. It kind of morphed out of the previous band that Rob had been part of, Those Dirty Swedes and Pedro. So basically the same lineup, but they've kind of changed the name, changed the whole thing, mostly because this specific project was kind of came around kind of strangely. They partnered with a writer called Nelson Taylor, who is a friend of mine, who I really love and appreciate a lot. And he's a fabulous person, a fabulous writer, and they actually found inspiration in some of the work he's been working on, and managed to kind of wrangle him into the project to have him help them create lyrics for the songs that they were writing that were inspired by his writing. So yeah, kind of unique. Nelson is not a musician, so he's not on the recording anywhere, but it is all of his words. So very, very unique, very strange situation. It's not completely out of the ordinary, but I mean it's kind of uncommon, and I think it was very cool. So what you're listening to is one of those tracks. Two-Sided Heart is currently playing. At the end of the episode, I've included another track off the album called Wonderland. So stick around for that. It's a little bit of a lengthy one because the record we were featuring is a lengthy one. It's the Derek and the Dominos Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs double album. This is a first pressing from the US on Atco. This is the pressing that we listened to on the show, so everything that you hear is coming off of this vinyl. It's a little bit of a beat-up copy, as you can see the chewed corner. Goddamn animals. But I have this available on my website right now if you want to buy it. It's cheap. Free domestic shipping, too, so it's there. And just really quickly, Rob, I found the single for Hey Jude, covered by Wilson Pickett. I listened to it. It's great. I am not going to put this up on my website. But Rob tells me in the interview that my homework is to find that song and to listen to it because it's the song that inspired Eric Clapton to find Duane Allman to have him on this record because Duane Allman is a guitar player on this record. So that's that. Just really quickly, I also want to tell you, last episode I had mentioned to you guys how hopefully I was going to have these shirts done, and I do have them done, but I'm not ready to put them up on my website. They're perfect, they're awesome, I have them right over here. I want to show them to you so badly, but I don't want to be an asshole and have you say, hey, you told me your shirts are on your website, and then go to my website and then they're not there. So I have another episode coming up soon, probably in about a week. So stay tuned for that, and I will show you those shirts there, and they'll be on my website. I think that's pretty much it for now. Tune into the band Alstead, listen to them. It's on Spotify and iTunes, and pretty much anywhere else you can find music, I'm sure. This was very fun. I thank Rob for coming, and I thank him for choosing this record because it was a very great learning experience for me. Do all those things you do with the internet. Do all the liking, subscribing. I love the hearts. The hearts are beautiful. Share with a friend. Tell everyone, all friends you know all across the world that they can listen to this. That'd be cool. Thank you. And yeah, and enjoy.
makes me stronger until I get sick. Look at it.
What is this?
I brought the American mix.
Oh.
This is the British mix. 2 mixes.
Cool.
There's also a remix.
More recent?
Like the 90s, 30th anniversary.
Okay.
That one, there's a lot of reverb. So,
yeah, let me see this.
I've got.
Do you mind? Looking?
No, let's look at them. This one's kind of new, and that's the British version.
This is heavy.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, it's a heavy setup. It's like a fancy reissue, like 40th anniversary, but it's the British mix, which is nice and pretty even, and I think they remastered it for the 40th anniversary.
Oh, there's 5 discs in this?
So there's some, and so the discs are one thing, but there's one disc that is
CDs.
Yeah, there's 2 albums, right?
Okay.
The LPs are in there, but there's one CD that is a 5-point whatever surround sound.
Okay.
So you put it in your movie theater.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I never heard anything like that, right? Like Eric Clapton has his own speaker. Dwayne Allman has his own speaker. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
It's interesting.
Nice, man. Let me actually get a little bit of footage of this. It's been a while since I've had a live session, so it's been a while since I've been able to actually, get hands-on with some vinyl. Mm-hmm. And so I appreciate you bringing this. This is a nice little treat.
Let's do it. So yeah, British mix. Now I've got also my older. This is the U.S. pressing, right? So this has got the Polydor label. The U.S. has, I think, Atco, and those are the 2 mixes plus the 30th anniversary remix. These are there's 3 mixes I'm aware of. My personal favorite is on vinyl is the American mix, because it has the least amount of reverb and production. Like when you play it, the guitars just jump off the speakers at you.
Yeah. And there's no it's remastered, did you say? I'm sorry, I couldn't catch all of what you were saying and this at the same time.
Yeah, this one's remastered.
Right, this is a newer edition of the British.
Yeah, mix. British mix, American original pressing master here.
It's an original pressing?
They pressed millions of these records, right?
Well, okay, so we're going to jump right into this now.
Let's do it.
So this album was not really very successful when it was first released. Did you know that?
I did know that, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, this looks pretty old. I actually have a copy.
Nice.
After we spoke and we messaged and you told me you wanted to do this one, I happened to find a copy, and I wasn't looking for it. I was just I found this guy that was getting rid of a bunch of records, and this happened to be one of them that were in there, and it's not in great condition. I mean, this is my copy. But I did do the research on this copy, and this is a first pressing from Presswell.
Nice
pressing plants.
Look at that! Look at that cover.
Yeah,
so I have 2.
Oh yeah, no, this is a Presswell too.
Yeah, I have 2 copies of that one. I left the other one at home. I don't know which one was in better shape.
That's okay. I mean, this is very cool. I mean, so yeah, this does look like a legitimate first pressing. This looks like it's from Presswell. You can tell by the little PR in the runout groove there. I'm trying to get a little attention of. It's got the yellow labels and the yellow Atco labels. It's got the address on it, the 1841 Broadway in New York, which is something they changed with later pressing.
Yeah.
But yeah, this looks like a pretty good shape. Did you get this back in the day, or did you kind of find this later on?
That one came from a box of records from Uncle Peter, so my mom's baby brother. He was like the youngest of all the uncles in my family, and so every now and then there was an aunt or an uncle that abandoned a box of records.
Nice.
So most of the classic rock came from from that kind of stuff.
All your older
yeah.
uncles.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's cool. I remember seeing a bunch when I was a kid, but I had no idea or interest in records at the time. I mean, I just remember seeing covers and being like, oh, that looks cool. Like it was some AC/DC 130 Rock or something like that, you know. I was just like, wow, I wonder what that sounds like, you know. Cool, man. Well, these look great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, first pressings of this record are not that valuable. I mean, the better the condition, like this is really nice condition. I bet you this could probably get upwards of like $16 maybe. I mean, that's
Yeah.
like mid-range for
Yeah.
records, you know. That one, like, I could maybe get $10 for it because it's chewed up and stuff. It's got the dog chew on one corner. But we'll play this one tonight, just
right.
because I'd like to have other people listen to it.
Let's do it.
But yeah, I'm sorry. We cheersed already. Cheers, Rob.
Let's do it
Thank
again.
you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, no problem. I was very interested in talking with you and discussing your recent project.
Yeah. Let's get into it.
I was just so excited to be here with somebody else and having vinyl that you brought. That was a nice little gift to take a look at.
So here's the other thing. So, you know, you sent me the message, like, what album do you want to talk about? And I'm like, oh, I got to think about this. And a minute later, I'm like, it's got to be Layla and Other Sort of Love Songs.
So it didn't take that long.
No, listen, there isn't a more legendary album, and it's got things that no other album has, right? So first, you have like two of the world's greatest guitarists at their peak, like coming together, and that doesn't always work out, right? And these guys just became intertwined, as good as any other guitar players go,
right?
And so that's serendipitous. The reason that Eric was making this album, right, was to steal his best friend's girlfriend that he's madly in love with, right?
Yeah.
So that doesn't happen very often. And then just the sheer debauchery of the lifestyles, and when this album was going on, it's as high as any Led Zeppelin or whatever Van Halen drug debauchery story.
So this is my copy. It's not that great. If you want to take a look at it. Like I said, I just picked it up just randomly. It was just in a box of records that I got.
Most records in the box from the uncles look like this. It's like,
yeah, it was played, it was loved, you know.
yeah, it's
maybe a little neglected.
yeah. The Stones, Zeppelin, Aerosmith, they all look like that.
Right.
So it's making me think that my copy might be from an aunt.
Yeah.
Because she was a lot more.
A little bit more sensitive with it, a little more delicate.
That's right.
Attentive to its needs. So Rob, how are you doing? You're an older guy now. You're married. You have children, I believe. Right?
I've got one daughter. She's 14.
Yeah.
I'm in software, right? So I'm on video conference a lot, working from home. I've got it all figured out now, and I've got a band. My friends, like, it's the best thing to hang out with my dudes and play music once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's.
Are you still playing?
I do. Yeah.
You know, because of the whole quarantine thing.
So it was like maybe 10 weeks off. So once it got like governors, like, you know, everyone's got to stay at home and all that, we just stopped.
Right.
And then I moved into this new place that I'm in, and it's got this huge room and all these windows, and, you know, and now they're like, oh, if 6 people can get together.
Oh, okay.
So it's pretty cool.
Right.
It's chill.
Perfect. So a little bit about the project. The band's name is Alstead. Is that how you pronounce it?
That's right.
Alstead.
Alstead.
Alstead. Okay.
Yeah, so the background is Nelson started writing. I didn't know it was going to be a book, but he just started writing these, you know, call them novelettes, and he's sending them to maybe a dozen friends and saying, I just wrote this, what do you think? And you'd read them and you write, wow, that's crazy, dude, or whatever. And, you know, the third one was called Tuscaloosa Sunrise, and it was this big, long journey of this guy just hanging out with a guy he kind of knew and just having to get through the night to arrive, at like his daughter's place, and they just get banged up and end up on the grass of the daughter's place in the morning. And it just was so rock and roll. I'm like, there's a song in this. So I just started writing some of the, like, highlighting some of the lyrics and rearranging words into lyrics. And I talked to Nelson about it, and he's like, wow, we could, in his words, we could make a song. And I'm like, well, let's do it. And so we just kind of like sat down. I had the guitar and we had a pen and paper, and we just kind of made that into a song. And he just kept writing these, what became chapters of the book. And then he would send lyrics. So then he's throwing lyrics at me, and there might be 2 pages of lyrics, and I try to maybe write the music without him, and then he'll show up and he'll have some input, and we just sort of bounced ideas back and forth, and change words here and there, and pull things around.
Okay.
And it just became like a year-long thing. It turned into this whole project, and now the book's done, and the album's done. And my band, at first, they were a little wary, because it was like bringing. The thing about the band is that it's a bunch of guys that are all kind of in the same place in life, right? We all have our jobs and our families, but we have this one little slice of, our child-like selves that we can hang out together and be knuckleheads and do this. And whenever you say, oh, it'd be really great to have a keyboard player play on this, but then you have to find another guy that you want to hang out with, which frankly can be, it's not easy. So bringing Nelson in was bringing another guy in, but he knew everybody, and we just started hanging out at practice when it went from just like me and an acoustic to like, let's try this stuff as a whole band. And then it was like, hey, let's record some of these songs and see what happens. And my grandfather has this cabin in the woods, and he passed, but my brother owns it now, and it's up in New Hampshire. And the town is called Alstead. So, and it's vacant because he lives on the West Coast. So I went up there with the whole band and Nelson, and we spent like 4 days and 3 nights there just recording. Bam, 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 bam. And those sessions didn't end up on the record, but like it's what sparked the whole thing, playing them back, listening to songs, and just sort of like woodshedding them, if you will,
Literally.
Yeah. So, that sparked the whole thing, and we came back and we worked on the songs a lot, and we were practicing them, and we were playing some gigs, some covered gigs. We'd throw a couple of those songs in, and finishing the record, we had a friend who can, he's in the business and he can make stuff, but he's so busy. Mm-hmm. So even though he's like, I'll do that for you, it'll be great, it'll be free, and
it'll just take months.
Yeah. So finally, we called my old buddy Randy at Newcastle Sounds in Bristol, and we just went in there and banged it out over like 4 weekends in a row. Boom, 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 done.
Right.
And we didn't really like know what to call ourselves, and then we're like, let's just name it after that first session. So there it is. Awesome.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, because how long were you guys together before the project really started? Because I imagine that, like, from what I had seen about you, it started off as another band, like Pedro, was it?
Yeah. So Pedro's the drummer.
Okay.
And Pedro is sort of in a million bands in Providence, and he's been around forever, back to the Fort Thunder days.
Okay.
And my little sister, I used to host like a jam session, and so I have a lot of musician friends in Providence. 7 or 8 years ago, my little sister got married, and she's like, can you and your friends play the wedding? So then I just kind of like pared down to like my friends that was the smallest amount we could do this. Mm-hmm. And so we just learned all these cheesy wedding songs and picked some interesting ones, and we just had loads of fun, like laughing at all these songs and learning them and playing the wedding. So after that, we were just like, hey, let's play some cover gigs, and that's we played Newport and all that kind of good stuff. And
Oh, that's cool. So, it's the same lineup, basically?
Same lineup, yeah.
Oh, okay. So you get together for this jam session in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so you said I'm interested in the thing about Nelson because I know him. I was a friend of his, and I actually used to work for him a few years back. And I find him to be like a very just amazing and like influential person. Like we were in real estate together, and he was my broker, so he would kind of occasionally give us these speeches. And just the way he spoke to us, I was just like, every time that he would speak to me, it would leave me like invigorated and motivated to be like, okay, yeah, let's fucking get to work, let's do this. But I also knew that he had a background of being a writer, and he was actually a published writer, and it was just kind of like doing that thing where you get older and you kind of like settle into a family lifestyle and stuff, and so your passion thing, like for us, it's probably music. For Nelson was his writing, and kind of like it fell to the wayside a little bit, kind of do a little bit here and there, not really kind of going at it 100%. But so I was really interested in hearing that he was starting to write again. I think I probably caught a thread of like what you were talking about, like him starting to do these little short story projects and passing them around. But so it was your influence, like you caught those short stories, and you're the one that kind of made this project happen with him.
I heard a song in one of the stories,
right?
And I told them that, and it sparked him wanting to try to write lyrics. So it just there was never, we never said, hey, let's I think the conversation, hey, let's write a song for every chapter, came like 3 or 4 songs in.
Oh, okay.
So it just became guys hanging out, having a drink, having a laugh. Hey, let's write another song.
Right. Yeah. So he specifically kind of changed gears into like saying, oh, okay, I'll pitch lyrics to you if you're going to keep on writing material.
That's right.
Oh, okay. And so you're the primary songwriter of the band?
Yeah.
Okay. And how about the other guys in the band? I don't have anything because like you guys gave me the digital format of the record, so I don't have any information about it.
Yeah. So we got hit by COVID right when all that started. So that's kind of where we're at with that. So until we start playing gigs again, and we'll probably have something for that.
Right.
So the other guys in the band, so Pedro, so Peter Weinberg, he's the drummer. He's been in a ton of punk bands. He's been in a band called Sukasa. He's in the Swampbirds, a bunch of other Providence bands. Matt Dickinson plays bass, and I met Matt because our daughters were both going to the French American school. And he lived, oddly enough, in my neighborhood. So he came over one night, and we just started hanging out and playing, and Pedro was there. And then the singer's Brian Flynn, and Brian is an old friend from URI. So I met Brian 25 years ago when we were at URI. And we were in after that, we were in a band called The Details in Providence in the 90s. And then the 2000s, we both lived in Cambridge, Mass. And we were in a band called Those Dirty Swedes. And those were we were writing original songs, putting out records, thinking that, maybe this will pay for something someday.
Yeah. Never
did.
Okay. So that was the most recent thing before Alstead happened. Yeah. Like that was one of the transitionary bands.
Yeah. I played in The Americans, which is Chris Daltrey's band.
Yeah.
And I was playing bass. I was, he's a friend, and I was filling in on bass. And I was loading out a gig, and it was like 2 a.m, and my wife was very pregnant. And I just remember loading that amp in and saying, this is the last one until that kid's born. And she was born 2 days later. And so there was like a 2-year gap of playing music with folks at that point.
Right. Yeah, I took a much longer gap. My kids are now 12 and 10, and I'm still not at it. So. But now it's a matter of finding people. Like you said, it's kind of hard to find people sometimes to that you gel with and can work on stuff and be happy with it. So
exactly.
It sounds like you guys had a really great experience. I mean, 4 days hunkered down in a cabin in New Hampshire, writing and working on this material. It sounds great. Because you guys were tracking, right? You guys were.
We were. Yeah. So there's probably definitely versions of us.
And so why did you scrap that stuff? It just didn't wasn't tight enough at the time?
We were doing it all ourselves too, and engineering and producing and playing it's tough. And then we weren't ready to, it wasn't like, let's scrap it and start over. I went to the studio and talked to Randy. I said, hey, here's all the stuff we recorded. How about Randy, you just clean it all up and mix it and put it out? And he's like, yeah, I could do that. He's like, but I think you guys could come in here and just bang it out.
Okay.
So he kind of like sold me on just come play it again.
Huh. Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, it's good demo stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So, kind of like this band, like this album, the one album they made.
Yeah.
Just jamming into the night, into the early morning, basically 24 hours, like for days on end.
Yeah. Criterion Studios in Miami, right? Tom Dowd at the helm. So Tom Dowd had done Cream.
Yep.
Tom Dowd also did Aretha Franklin before that.
He's a very famous producer.
Yeah, he also did the Allman Brothers.
Right. He was working with the Allman Brothers at the time when because that's how that Dwayne Allman kind of got
That's
pulled
right.
in.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, the Allman Brothers were playing a show, and the Dominos showed up at the show and left with Dwayne.
Right. Yeah, he was still loyal to the band. I mean, like, I guess there was an offer that, they asked him if he would join the band kind of permanently, at least for the foreseeable future, for at least the coming tour. And he said no.
Well, leave his brother.
Well, yeah, that's a tough one. It wouldn't have been for me. I had been in a band with my brothers, and I quit that band. So if it was this situation, I'd be like, yeah, I'll fucking play, guys. Yeah, for sure.
They already had like 3 songs done, so there's like 3 songs on the album without Dwayne.
Right.
And I think it's probably the first 3, right? I looked away. Bell Bottom. What's the third one? Nope. Is it? Yeah, it must be Keep On Growing.
Yeah, I can't find exactly where it was right now, but yeah, it was something like that. He wasn't on 3 tracks. So let's get into a little bit. So Derek and the Dominos. Mm-hmm. Weird pen name for Eric Clapton. Basically, is basically his band. I mean, I guess he's kind of like the one that's most well known from the band. Him still trying to remain anonymous, even though he's a virtuoso.
Right.
I mean, he's trying to hide behind the fame and then the claim that he's received from being in Blind Faith and Cream. I mean, Cream was like one of the biggest bands of the 60s.
That's right. Yeah.
And he had this thing where he just, for some reason, hated fame. He just wanted to be anonymous. He wanted to kind of like get back to, the roots of playing. And so that's why he came up with this moniker, Derek and the Dominos, and was not, even when they were doing shows, like when they were gearing up to prepare to record, they did a few shows, and they actually did a small UK tour of club dates. And he was under contract to not use his name on any billing, and they were charging like £1 for people to get in. So he said that, yeah, that whole tour, like they were playing to like crowds of like 40 to 60 people.
Yeah.
Which is awesome, but it's also like you could be playing in front of thousands.
Yeah, I think they were just warming up, finding each other.
Oh yeah.
But he knew those guys because that band was Delaney and Bonnie's band, who he toured with in England, right? So
yes.
And they all came to find him.
They were all working together pretty regularly because there was the Delaney and Bonnie sessions, that they were working with, on and off.
Yeah.
And most recently was they all got together to record with George Harrison for All Things Must Pass sessions.
That was this band.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like Derek and the Dominos basically came directly from those sessions, and I guess because of working together so closely for George Harrison.
So close to Harrison's wife, Patty Boyd.
Man, it is so weird and incestuous. Like this record does make me like, it irks me a little bit, just kind of knowing that. Like, it's such a strange and like fantastical story.
He comes back to England, goes to see her, plays her the record, says, "What do you think?" She's like, "I'm not leaving with you."
Right.
She didn't leave him. She didn't leave George for another few years.
Right. Yeah. It took some time, but even still.
And at that point, it just took to the needle. At that point, he couldn't handle it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. He hit drugs hard, I guess, from what I learned about this. I didn't realize he was a big junkie at the time, or at least for some time. But
it was after this, or during this, and to after. Yeah.
Right. After this, it was kind of like the depths of it. He actually just went on hiatus
when he got rejected.
He got clean.
Yeah.
And then only after he got clean did he come back with like his solo career.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like 73, 74-ish.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Walled in.
Right. Man. So yeah, it's a fascinating record. You know, thank you for choosing it because you know I've never actually listened to it before. Like, I've obviously has always heard Layla on the radio and stuff like that. It always struck me as a weird song because it has like that weird overture near the end, which is like a complete like 180 from the rest of the song. Where it's like it always like fucked with my mind. Where I was just like I'd listen to the song and be like, okay, yeah, we got this bluesy rock like like hopping number happening, and then it would like kind of change on a dime. Like when you're not like completely immersed and you're not like completely designating all of your attention, and a song changes like that, you're like, wait, what the fuck just happened?
That song is so iconic especially when you hear it in sequence, right? You listen to the album and that song comes on. It's not like the radio or something, right? It's on a mix. It just feels fantastic.
Yeah.
And the story is, from what I understand, that that end part is the drummer played the piano part, and he stole it from his girlfriend, Rita Coolidge. Yes. Yeah, that guy was a whack job.
Yeah, we can get into that maybe a little later. Let's try to listen to a little bit of the record. Okay, so
I hear that, and I want to think about the meaning of the song. It's the whole opening to the Patty Boyd thing, but when I hear it, all I hear is that rhythm section, right? And it's like Fleetwood Mac in its heyday, right?
Yeah.
Jim Gordon on bass, Gordon on drums, and what's his name? He's from Tulsa. I'm looking right at him right here in the album. Carl Rattle on bass.
Yes, Carl Rattle. Jim Gordon on drums and Bobby Whitlock on vocals and keyboards.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the inside of this album, and like these guys were having the best fucking time.
Oh yeah.
And you can see they're trading shirts, like. Just funny stuff. Funny stuff.
Yeah, this reminds me of I just got a copy of Heart's Greatest Hits. So it's like a double album, but it's like half live, and then like the first record is all of their studio tracks, Greatest Hits compilation, and then the second album is a bunch of like live tracks. And it's kind of like this. It's this montage of collage of photos, and they look like they had a great time too. They definitely look like they had a bunch of crazy times. But that's what bands do,
Fair enough.
What's how many? Do you have like a crazy moment you kind of think of offhand that's not too incriminating from your years of experience?
If you get your hands on some of that that Super 8 footage. There's some stuff going on there.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, in the details, we got some shows at Captain Nick's on Block Island. And we'd have to go over there and play 3 sets, 2 nights in a row, and we'd sleep. They had like a room with bunk beds for the band on like the 3rd floor of Captain Nick's.
Cool.
And it was like, I was like Jimi Hendrix playing Monterey. It was so fucking cool to be doing that, to be like 21 years old, playing 3 sets, sleeping above the bar on Block Island, and you can only imagine what went on.
Not having to worry about loading out and packing up and getting home. Yeah, that sounds like fun for sure. Yeah, I don't think I've ever done a gig like that. That's kind of strange. Like you hear about those like when you're going on tour sometimes, or overseas especially.
Yeah.
You hear about these clubs that kind of like put you up. But yeah, that's interesting. Sure.
We got $2,500 for 2 nights, and there were 5 of us. So I mean, it was more money than we could have hoped for. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So let's say the whatever happens pandemic-wise, the world levels off and shows start happening again. What's the plan for Alstead at this point?
I think we're gonna play some gigs, right? So we've got these songs. We recorded 10 of them. There's 5 more songs.
Oh.
So we can record those whenever we're ready. And then we also have at least a dozen other originals that like we've written over the same sort of time period, but I've
Yeah.
kind of put on the, you know, Brian and I wrote them, so it wasn't Nelson and I, so sort of a slightly different category, but we're gonna do all those songs too. So, I mean, we could get another album out there, you know, relatively
Quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So it reminds me again. I keep on forgetting about Nelson and the his influence on this project because he's not a musician,
Mhm.
you know. And so like I remember him mentioning it to me at first. How he was just like, yeah, I'm like writing songs with these guys. It was like, what are you playing? He's just like, oh no, I'm not playing anything. I'm just writing the lyrics.
Yeah, but there's
It's like,
plenty of writers, right, that don't play an
Yeah.
instrument. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. But he's also not singing. He's contributing no performance to the record, which is a little strange. I mean, it's not like it's never happened before, but I think it's certainly a unique situation.
It is unique, and you know, one thing that was kind of like a little bit tricky with us working together was we'd write the song, meaning, you know, there's an acoustic guitar, there's the lyrics, and Nelson and I are sitting here across the table, you know, verse 1, verse 2, chorus, and all that stuff. You write it out and record it. All right, the demo's done. And then I go play with the band, and Nelson would maybe start feeling a little bit left out, because now he's, like you said, he doesn't sing, he doesn't play an inch. Like, he wants to somehow, like, and obviously we love him and want him there and hanging around and talking about all the stuff. But there's something to it, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's only so much you can do. I mean, even like a band
Yeah.
being in the studio, it's just like, you know, you have to designate time to each artist when you're tracking, especially. I mean, like, you know, because most records are done that way, especially
Yeah.
today. I think is that, you know, you track records, so you have the drummer come in first, they put down the track, and for the most part, no one else is doing anything. I mean, they might play with like a bassist or a guitarist just to kind of like, you know, get a
Yeah.
feel for the music, kind of keep time together, but they'll just scratch those tracks. You know, the guitarist and the bassist will come back in later and do those individually.
We cut it live.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I
cool.
mean, there's a couple of overdubs, but yeah, we just cut it live.
Oh, so then so what was Nelson's,
Like, he was in the control room,
Yeah.
and he was very enthusiastic about, you know, what song you're gonna do. That sounded really good. Like, we'd experiment, we'd try things.
kind of taking a production role almost?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, why don't you try this, maybe a little
Yeah.
something like, you
Or I
know,
liked that a lot better when you did it the first
especially
time.
for the singing.
Yeah.
Right, because it's like, if it's words, I mean, I assume he had some influence over the way that
Yeah.
singing would be done.
If one of the words was wrong, and we never got it right, so I kind of feel bad. But yeah, so some of the words we had to work on, and
Yeah.
one we didn't get right. But Nelson also super clicked with Randy, who was turning the knobs in engineering, right? So I think there was a really good synergy there, where he was able to sort of help the guy that was doing the engineering really understand what was behind it, and he was really getting into the lyrics as well. Like, these songs are telling a story.
Right.
And you know, when you record, you know, Randy's like, bring a few records with you, CDs, that you want to reference, because when we get into a rut, you know, we want to hear something that you want it to sound like, maybe. And so I brought a Replacements record, I brought an Uncle Tupelo record, and I brought Layla. Because I brought all like albums that I like the way the album sounds as well. And, you know, we were playing one of the songs and kind of getting lost a little bit on how the drums and the bass are sounding together. And I was just talking about, like, all I hear there is how great that rhythm section sounds.
Yeah.
And he would play our take, and he would have Layla on another set of faders, and he would fade them into each other a little bit to hear how different, you know, this drum sounds versus that drum. And he would EQ while he was doing that, and it was I'd never seen a guy do that before. I thought it was great.
That's awesome. Yeah. What track was that on? Do you know?
I mean, we did it more than once.
Okay.
But we definitely definitely did it with Gone Away. We definitely did it with Cross Hills. Those are a couple of tracks. Interesting. If you listen to the next track, Bell Bottom Blues.
Oh yeah.
There's something unique in the drums. So
Okay.
in the drums on Bell Bottom Blues, he doesn't play the toms, right? So he's playing the snare and the bass, but instead of playing a fill, he overdubbed bongos.
Oh, okay.
So when you hear like, "Do you want to hear me crawl across the floor to you?" and they go to that part of the song, you're gonna hear this weird bongo conga in the background or something.
Yeah.
And when we were recording "Gone Away," I brought that up. I'm like, why don't we do that to make this some different? Because the song is kind of feeling. I just wasn't feeling it. Let's just try something new.
Yeah.
So we did the same exact thing in that song.
Oh, cool. Let's try to find a little bit of that, a little piece of that. Cool. Yeah, that chorus is a killer. That's the one that probably grabbed me the most from my listening to this record. I've listened to it a bunch of times. I've been listening to this record specifically like at least 4 times now, and then doing it digitally like while I work and stuff.
Is there a greater muse
And a woman?
in music history than Patty Boyd?
Oh, you mean like actually like content-wise? Like how many people has she influenced and for how much music?
And hit songs like
Right.
the song "Something," probably one of the greatest love songs ever written, was written about her. I mean,
Yeah.
we just heard "Bell Bottom Blues," of course, "Layla," "Wonderful Tonight." Like there are a lot of, and I'm sure there's Beatles songs I can't even think of right now that he wrote for her. Right, so many of them.
Yeah. I was actually just listening to All Things Must Pass too, because that's another one I haven't really listened to, really focused any attention on, but I don't think there's many love songs on that.
I don't think so either. It was more about the band breaking up and then
And more of his like Christian, I mean not Christian, his religious
yeah.
seeking, I guess you could call it.
You need to read, if you haven't. Patty Boyd has an autobiography.
Mm-hmm.
And she's interesting in her own right, but there is some very insightful periods when she was with George and then with Eric.
Yeah.
It's super insightful.
Really?
Yeah.
You mean like as far as like the kind of getting into the minds of those guys as artists, like what they
As good guys and as bad guys.
Oh yeah.
So they're
Okay.
both.
Well, they're obviously both out of their fucking minds.
Yeah.
I mean, like this record is such a like obscene, like just plea to like of infatuation.
Right.
Like a sick infatuation that someone has. Like, have you ever had like a sickness like that you felt like with like being like where you're like, man, looking back at it now, it's like I fucked up. Like. There's no reason I should have done anything that I did.
We've all had the crazy eye that
Yeah.
you just can't.
At least
quit.
once or twice, right? But yeah, on this scale, though, it's just like, yeah, well, I'm just gonna write an album for her because I want to impress her and want her to be with me.
I want her to feel how I feel about her, so
Right.
I'm gonna try to put that to music.
Yeah, I mean, because even the first track, like, I caught some of the lyrics. I'm not crazy about lyrics, but some of it, like, there's that one line where he even says, like, something about, being in love with another man's woman.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
You're just going to put it right out there on the first track.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, so this album, they've done a few covers too. I've noticed that there are 5 covers on this album, out of a total of,
Wow.
what is it, 20 songs?
I never thought there were 5 covers, but 1,
Yeah.
2. So Nobody Knows When You're Down Out. Key to the Highway.
Oh, it's 14 songs.
Have You Ever Loved a Woman? Little Wing. Yeah, one aside.
Yeah, Nobody Knows When You're Down and Out.
One aside.
Key to the Highway. There's actually 2 on the last side. Little Wing is followed by It's Too Late.
Oh,
So
yeah.
So we'll get there. But let's move on to Keep On Growing. This is a fun one.
Yeah.
Keep On Growing? I'm not sure name.
So you know Cream, right?
Yeah.
And Cream, Clapton was really the first guy to take a Les Paul and a Marshall stack. He was the guy that started that sound, or the first guy to use it. Someone else would have done it, right? And he had 2 Marshall stacks, right? And it was so loud, it was hard to record. It was so loud. When they showed up to do Layla, he had a Tweed Champ, which is a 5-watt amp.
Right. I
Right?
heard about
Yeah,
that.
and Dwayne had a little Gibson, tube amp, 5 watts, same thing.
Mhm.
And I don't know, you can hear that Stratocaster really well, and it always sounds like Eric, and you can hear that Les Paul, and it's a little bit meaner.
Yeah.
It's always the way. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I haven't. I just didn't have the time to really put comparisons together.
Yeah.
Because like I've never been a huge Cream fan either. Never been a big Clapton fan in general. You know, I've listened to a bunch of his solo records recently because of my record resale stuff. So you know, I've come across them. You know, Slow Hand and I forget what that other weird red one is. Like,
Backless.
Backless.
No,
right?
just
No.
One Night.
No, Backless. I think
It is
what
Backless. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the one I had. And then I did have some Cream records. I had like Fresh Cream, and then probably Wheels of Fire, and those were great.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like every time I hear them, I realize that I like them, but I
Yeah.
just never had any records that I've actually held on to. Yeah.
I think it's because I had the aunts and uncles records, right?
Mhm.
Because when I started listening to music on my own, it was more punk, like Billy Idol, The Police, you know, Clash.
Who was this, 80s?
Yeah, I grew up. I'm born in '72, so by the time, like these, I started listening to records. It's probably 78, 79, 80.
Yeah.
And that's when I'm getting into that stuff.
Yeah, so that's I mean that's like the peak of the new wave movement.
Yeah.
So like the Thomas Castellano
Attraction, yeah.
stuff like that is coming around.
I love it all, but the thing is like Clapton, I mean, in particular, became very uncool, right? Like, and he's almost like, you know, you fast forward and now it's like Oasis and Britpop, and those guys are really taking digs at people like Clapton, right? Like I mean, they'll go see Led Zeppelin, but they're not going to go see Eric Clapton, right? I don't know. And he's so uncool, I kind of love it.
Yeah. Yeah, there is something about that, I guess. I mean, because I mean, there are people that obviously love him. He still has a massive career. He's still super well loved. I mean, he's still like...
He's in the Hall of Fame more than any other guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he's
He's in
in
there for Cream and...
Cream, Yardbirds,
Oh, Yardbirds. That's right.
Solo. There's got to be I don't know, he's in at least 3 times. I don't think anyone else is.
Cream, Jerkin, Dominoes, and the solo one.
Yeah.
And then the Yardbirds
Yardbirds,
as
yeah.
well. So that's 4.
No, he's not in for Derek, I don't think. One album, I don't think
No.
they're going to let you in. Oh, maybe you're right.
This record has developed some accolades for sure. Yeah, maybe they didn't get into the Hall of Fame, but this record has definitely won a Grammy. It won a Grammy like posthumously because like it was actually for the re-release. I believe the surround sound one. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, but I mean he's had such a crazy and long career and like been part of so many things that have been like so influential and yeah, the album was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 2000.
All right.
And then 2012, the Super Deluxe Edition won a Grammy for award for Best Surround Sound Album.
There it is. There's the one.
Yeah, that's that one, right?
Yeah.
That's great. Cool.
That's
I'd love to hear it, but
Lot of categories.
Can't get into that.
No.
Yeah, I know, right? So let's see where we were at. We're at track 4.
Yeah.
Nobody Knows When You're Down and Out, which is one of the covers.
And who would think this is a cover?
But wait, let me see, because I lose track of the songs. Oh, I kind of thought it might be a cover, because I was like, this is so bluesy. I was
Yeah.
just like I knew there were some covers, so, and he does his best Ray Charles impression on this, I think.
But there's also Your Best Friend's Wife. Like the lyrics are pretty spot on for him.
Yeah. I remember listening to that, and every time that song would come up, I was just like, I want to hear "Let's Go Get Stoned." I want him to. I want to hear him sing it.
Yeah, it sounds like the same melody.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that's why I kind of knew that was a cover. It sounded like something else. Like it didn't sound like the first 3 songs. It didn't sound anywhere near the first 3 songs, you know. And I think this record's weird. Like, so putting Layla all the way at the end, like. So Layla was not being considered for the single, I guess, because initially, during the All Things Must Pass sessions, they did do a couple of tracks with the famous producer, what's his name?
Phil Spector?
It's Phil Spector. What were those
Tell the
songs?
Truth.
Tell the Truth and Roll It Over, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they did release that as a single, and they were pretty unhappy with it. They didn't think that the full Wall of Sound production really matched their feel of their record or the band.
Yeah, and it was a different,
so they pulled it.
Yeah, it was fast, too. It was nothing like
Did you hear it?
Here. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I imagine, considering they pulled it, those records are probably pretty valuable if you have one.
Yeah,
If you have a single of it.
I've got like a comp, and it's got like
It's just kind of
weird stuff, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. But so what did you think? I mean, so you heard it. Doesn't kind of live up to the full record here.
No, here's the thing. There's like when you hear it, when we're listening to this record, right? It's very present, right? It's very upfront in your ears. You hear Eric on this side, you hear Dwayne here. That rhythm section is very dry, and when you think about that wall of sound, there's echo on everything, right? And everything's far away. It's not present. It's got this big depth of field.
Right.
So it's just this record, the way it's produced, the way it's very present, it suits them, and it suits these songs. And I just think it was like a bad fit.
Right. So this is like a more stripped down, raw band, getting down to brass tacks.
Yeah.
They don't want that whole production thing, right? Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I love most of what Phil Spector does. I mean, he's just a genius, and the touch he puts on work is just amazing sounding. But hey, whatever. I mean, at some point maybe I'll come across it and
It's something you don't like. Yeah.
That would just be fun to listen to. It's just one of those things. Just like it's kind of historic, like this historical document. That's just like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Yeah.
And I think on that track, Dave Mason was in the band.
Yeah, he did contribute some stuff to this recording, I believe, because he was kind of there from the beginning. He was actually there from the debut show.
He's not on the LP.
Oh, okay, not at all?
No.
All right.
No Dave on the LP, but I think he's on that single.
Well, that would make sense because he was there from the beginning. Yeah, he left because he just didn't feel like the band was taking it seriously. Like they kind of weren't progressing quickly enough to start working. Clapton actually was still under contract and was committed to finishing out the All Things Must Pass sessions before doing anything with the Dominos.
Oh wow!
So I think that's what kind of ticked off Dave Mason. He was just like, okay, well, if you guys aren't going to do anything, I need to work it. Basically, can you imagine as a working musician? It's just like we'll have to sit around and wait for you guys to be ready to play, but gotta make some money.
Yeah, I don't know. So this is really crazy, right? So it goes from Nobody Knows When You're Down and Out, very bluesy, Ray Charlesy, and then it goes into I Am Yours, which is this really like almost like Eastern, I don't know. It's part. I mean, I don't even know the poet.
Oh,
Nizam, who he took the lyrics from, but it sounds very.
Nizami?
Yeah, it sounds. It's got this weird thing, and of course the slide by Dwayne Allman is fantastic.
Let me see if I can find it. Slide, is that like a solo-ish?
It'll be right at the beginning.
Oh, is it? Okay.
They were smoking weed when they did this one.
They were shooting smack. What are you talking about? Smoking?
Well, that one just sounds. I could just smell the bong hits on that.
Oh yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, I mean, well, all of them obviously, having worked with George Harrison, obviously the Hare Krishna influence, the sitar playing, that's
a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can see how they kind of probably took some of that, put it towards that, especially with the lyrics. Yeah, that's a great song actually. I just I don't know the record so well that like I can pull names of songs and like the content of the music like out of my head. I just need to reference it and be like, oh okay, yeah, now I remember.
Now you're there.
This one's good. So yeah, that's a great song. Any Day After That.
Oh, Any Day. So this is the one I think it's only Clapton, not Dwayne.
Yeah.
I think the whole tune is in the key of A. Like I think the guitar is tuned to A too. I think it's like this weird.
Okay.
I don't know if you play guitar, but it's
I'm not great at it.
Yeah.
I'm not a trained guitarist. I'm a hack guitarist. Oh yeah. Yeah, I like the second vocals on this. Like I like the way that they harmony.
Bobby Whitlock and Clapton singing together. Yeah.
Yeah. It gets crazy down at the end, right? What I love about this song is that, like, when they really start, like, just kind of freaking out at the end, it's the drums that just double up on the beat, and all of a sudden it's like a fucking, like, punk song. It's great, like how it just changes on a dime, like they're just kind of in that groove, and then all of a sudden he just switches it up, like, out of nowhere. I love songs that do that.
I like listening to this and talking to you about it because you have such a different perspective to an album I've listened to thousands of times.
Right there. Did you hear? He came in for just like 2 measures there, but then like he does it again. Like you could tell this was a jam session, and they kind of like.
Yeah.
Watch, he's gonna do it again. There it is. See, and then there it is, like. Yeah, that's a great part. I love that. Ooh, sorry about that. Just that gave me fucking chills, that part.
Imagine what that shit was like live.
Oh yeah, and they didn't do it very much either, you know.
Yeah, like one tour.
That's great though. I forget, like, you know, one of the reasons why I like doing this is because I get to sit with somebody that knows a record better than I do, and sometimes it's not a record that I knew well, you know, and so it's just like. It's a new experience for me. You know, I appreciate you thinking that, like, what I can tell you, what I get out of it, is a kind of opens up a different thing to you as well. But yeah, it's doing the same for me. I mean, because you obviously know this album very well.
So, Key to the Highway, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the one that fades in because it was a jam, and the producer came back from the bathroom when they were playing, and he just hit record, so they faded it up.
Oh, really?
And this song, the guy that wrote it, what's his name?
Willie Brun?
Yeah, but it's like
Charles Seeger?
It's Doug Sham, I think was his like stage name, or something like that. But he, or maybe no, you know what? It was Big Bill Brunsey wrote it, right? But someone else was covering it in the same studio, in like Studio B.
Oh, okay.
Right? So the Dominos are probably all lying on the floor smacked out. They're like, hey, why don't we play that? So they get off the floor and they start playing it. And the producer walks in and has to hit record. And now he has to fade it up.
Yeah. And that's the longest track. It's 9 minutes long. Let me see if I can get the beginning.
And they're just...
The two of them.
Yeah, they're just weaving together.
Cool.
See a smack.
Yeah, man. I don't know how people play on smack. I don't get it.
I've never tried it, so I wouldn't even begin to understand.
Yeah, I mean, well, you get cocky. It's kind of like cocaine, I guess, in that regard, where it's just like you just think you can do no wrong.
Well, they could do no wrong.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're, you know, they didn't need it, but can't hurt to be overconfident, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. We knocked down one record.
Wow.
This is a long one, folks.
Every 2 weeks, for sure. You know, I'm 3 miles from downtown Providence.
Oh, okay.
I can Uber, or I can get a ride with a friend, and Nick and Ease has free music every night.
Oh,
right? The Parlor. Yeah, I'd rather take a chance on seeing a band I don't like at a bar than pay, you know, $150 to go see Fleetwood Mac at the Dunk.
Oh, I'm sure it's more than 150 now.
Yeah. And you know what? It was fucking fabulous, but like that's just not it's not the way I think. Like I want to go see this big thing.
Right.
I want to be on top of a band in a sweaty bar. That's
right.
For me, rock and roll.
Yeah. Yeah. Just kind of like this record. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you know, he wanted to play to 40 to 60 people. He wanted that intimacy of being in a room and everyone just kind of like just digging, grooving on what's happening, and not like the 10-foot, you know, barricades between the stage and
That's right.
the audience and security. And
do you know who the opening act was for the tour after they recorded this? It was his first tour, Elton John. 3-piece.
Yeah.
Elton got kicked off the tour because he just fucking tore the place down every time.
Really? He was
Yeah.
too good?
Yeah, but he was also fucking tearing up hotels. And,
Oh,
yeah,
nuts.
Yeah.
Going
They
nuts
were all
more
on-
so than these guys?
These guys were on smack. He was on coke.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'll do it. So let's see, we gotta get into the second disc.
Yes. All right. Now, this song, "Tell the Truth," for me. So, learning guitar. I went to college, right? I went to UVM. I spent a few years there before I ended up finishing at URI. But when I was up there, I worked at a bike shop, and I made this lifelong friend, Jack Vitas, who's a little bit older than me, but all he played was blues. And we had some common ground on things like this, right? Because I was listening to other stuff, more punky stuff. And I love blues, right? But I just never thought, like, hey, I'm gonna sit down and learn this Muddy Water song. So he and I moved in together. We had this back porch, and we would just sit out there with our acoustics. And I bought my first guitar. I had missed, for some reason, I had a month's pay in one paycheck, and it was like $525, and there was a dobro in the window for like $580. And I signed the check over to them, and they took like $50 off the guitar. And him and I played every day, and one of the first songs he taught me was "Tell the Truth."
Wow.
And it has this awesome lick that starts off. So
let's do it.
let her rip.
All right, man. That's a good song. That's a good one.
You know, Bobby Whitlock and Dwayne Allman knew each other because they were both session guys at Muscle Shoals.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's how Clapton learned about Dwayne Allman. So Dwayne Allman played backup for who's the guy that did Mustang Sally?
Oh shit.
No, it'll come to me in a second.
Hey Siri, who wrote Mustang Sally?
Here's what I found from WN.com. Mustang Sally is an R&B song written and first recorded by Mac Rice in 1965.
It's Wilson Pickett. So Wilson
Pickett cover it?
Wilson Pickett made it famous.
Okay.
And Wilson Pickett was at Muscle Shoals, and Dwayne Allman said, hey, why don't we try Hey Jude, who was on the charts by the Beatles. And so they played it, and at the end, this is your homework, you got to find that cover of Pickett doing Hey Jude. You hear an explosion of guitar by Dwayne Allman. And when Clapton heard that, he was like, holy shit, and he picked up the phone and called Atlantic Records and said, who played guitar on that track? And that's how he knew who Dwayne Allman was. So when he was asked, hey, do you want to go see this Allman Brothers concert they're playing and they want to meet you? He's like, oh, fuck yeah, that's the guy that played. Played on Hey Jude, yeah.
Very, very different times back then.
Yes.
Now you just get on Facebook. You're like, who the fuck is on this song? Like,
oh, man. You're kidding. Can I see your copy on the back there? No, this one.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see...
They should be identical. This is
Yeah.
a really strange experience that I find two of the same records that were actually from the same pressing plant.
Yeah.
Mine's obviously beat the shit a little bit more, but
Printed in the USA. But, like, right up here, it says product of Polydor, England. Maybe that's just, like, their...
well, because it's
That's their company. That's the parent company, right?
well, all right. I don't know. I'd have to look into the research about that, but I'm assuming Polydor signed them.
Yeah.
But this is Acco Records that released this in the States.
I think that's spot on.
So it's basically just them licensing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's what I think, because then you have all this stuff. You got the Atlantic Acco and Cotillion like ads on the inside sleeve, so you get all the records that they were putting out at the time. You got it.
I love the
This
different...
is the British one.
Yeah, the label on the inside is so cool that they're different based on where they release them.
It's so heavy.
Yeah, I think that's because it's a newer record.
Yeah,
but
it's like 180 grand probably.
but I just like the label.
Yeah.
So I had I have a friend, and he's in a band called the Figs, and back in the 90s they put out a record on Columbia, and he fought to get the vintage Columbia label on their
really?
wax because he wanted to be like the Beatles and have the vintage one.
Were they on Columbia?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So was it the 2i Columbia logo? Like that has the 2i things?
No,
on the sides?
it was the black label
with the yellow
with
Columbia around the ring?
yeah, and it was like a rainbow in the ring.
Oh.
If you look at an old Beatles record, it's Columbia,
No,
and there's
Capitol.
a Capital rather, and it's and there's a ring,
Yeah.
and that ring has like some sort of rainbow color.
Yes. Oh, that's what you want to do. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, man. Those labels are iconic. They're beautiful.
Yeah, and people care a lot about which one they get.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you get into the whole aspect of collecting records, especially the old ones, it's like you get a lot of those similar artwork. The similar like the iconic labels, the Capitol, the rainbow ring, the Columbia with the two eyes for the older pressings. That's how you can kind of tell. As soon as you pull it out, you're like, oh, this one's from like 62 to 68 or something like that, and then as soon as they convert over to the yellow Columbia ring, or like the Columbia in a ring in yellow print, that's like, okay, 72 and on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the early Island records. It's like a little tropical motif.
Yeah, those are funny looking.
All right, so
Back to Derek.
why does love got to be so sad?
Because it's a motherfucker.
It is, but this is a Roman chariot race here.
Oof. You know why it's got to be so sad? Because you're living with a woman that's married to another man. That makes it real sad.
Happens to be your best friend, and he's
Yeah.
actually a Beatle.
That too, right?
Basically, he's in the biggest band ever.
Yep. And you have to compete against that. Now, Eric Clapton's great, and he was famous, but he wasn't a Beatle.
No.
And they both kind of look the same. They definitely, like, it wasn't a matter of looks. It wasn't a matter of, like, it was basically the stature.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Well,
because, I'm not saying, because I just think that being superficial, we're going to speak superficially, neither one of those guys are the most handsome of the bunch, okay? They're just average-looking guys, okay? So, and they're both after the supermodel. She's with George Harrison at the time. Eric Clapton comes around, can't get enough of her. What does he got to do to win her?
Yeah. And Clapton, like, I think Harrison had a traditional family upbringing. He was in a band with a bunch of guys, and they were buds, and they were popping out hits. Clapton, he grew up with his grandmother, right? His mother was like took off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there's all that baggage, and then he was so good at guitar that he had like a handler, right? Like Robert Stigwood just basically put him on salary and took care of everything for him. So
At a young age?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because he's been playing forever.
Yeah.
Did you know when he started playing?
I mean, teenager, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't know his timeline very well. I mean, I know the bands, but not like how old he was during those years.
Teenager. Yeah. I mean, George Harrison was 15, I think, when he joined the Beatles.
Really?
Yeah. He got sent home from Germany because they found out how young he was in the clubs when they were playing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. No, I didn't realize that. Amazing.
All right. Side 3, Have You Ever Loved a Woman? Billy Miles wrote it. It was made famous by Freddie King.
Okay.
So Freddie King is an electric blues guy from Texas, and he had a hit that Eric had already covered in the Blues Breakers. So that's the band he's in the Hall of Fame from that he couldn't remember.
John Mayall?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they used to do Hideaway, which is an instrumental hit, and it's like a guitar showpiece.
Mm-hmm.
And Have You Ever Loved a Woman is another like old blues standard that Freddie King made pretty famous.
Okay.
And when you listen to it, obviously, like it's fitting for this record, being all angsty about Patty.
I was trying to make the joke. Is this the Bryan Adams song? Oh no, that's Have You Ever Really Loved a Woman?
Yeah. The interesting thing is on most of these blues, Bobby Whitlock's playing piano, and it kind of gives it a little darker feeling than when he's on the organ.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Dwayne's rhythm, Dwayne's rhythm guitar in my right ear is so tasty. Those guys were just fabulous together.
Yeah.
You know, people talk about the Rolling Stones and how they weave guitars. Like, this is the most underrated weaving of guitars I could probably find.
Well, I mean, it certainly went on to develop the appreciation that it may have deserved at the time, that it didn't get when it was first released. So, I mean...
It was a slow burner.
Oh, yeah. So I wanted to ask you about your upbringing. So you're just telling me a little bit about how you got your first guitar. You were already in college when you were starting to learn?
I was 18, yeah.
Oh.
And, I just started, like, other guys that played guitar, in my dorm or when I moved in with Jack. I just play every day. And I think the first song I learned was, like, Tuesday's Gone, Leonard Skinner, and I learned Tangerine by Led Zeppelin. Mm-hmm. And I just started stringing them together. And before you know it, I was playing like a dozen songs a day. And, you're just playing rhythm, and then, someone like Jack who really knows blues, he's like, all right, here's how you start adding pieces to it. And he really opened up, like, how I could start incorporating, like, little licks here and there. I never really learned how to solo, but I learned how to, like, add some tasty licks in the rhythm. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, later on I started, studying scales a little bit, and that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. So you've been playing for how long?
So that had to be in 91 when I bought that guitar, or 90, so 30 years.
Wow, cool. And no other instruments? Never progressed on to anything else or dabbled?
I dabble on drums. I did some gigs on bass.
Oh, right, Americans?
Yep. And I took some piano lessons, played a little piano. I've got a Wurlitzer, a little electric piano.
All of those. Let's see, we were on side 4 now.
So you got to remember what year this is, right? They're recording this thing.
Right.
And Hendrix and Clapton, they knew each other. They were close. They were kindred spirits.
I always, when I heard this song, I was thinking, oh, that's right. Eric Clapton almost quit playing guitar because of Jimi Hendrix.
That's right. And Jimmy had just died.
Right.
And they're making this record, and so they recorded it.
So I think the way I read it was that they recorded this prior to him passing away.
Oh.
And because he passed away, they left it as paying homage. I think that's how I read it. I could be wrong.
If you read it, I tend to believe.
Yeah, but it's off Wikipedia. Who fucking knows if you read it? All right. Let me share something with you.
I'm romanticizing.
I don't often share things like ideologies that I have, but this is one that I have that I think that pertains to today's reality. I don't believe anything written anywhere because it's just so fucking weird. Okay, first of all, the country is at conflict and turmoil with each other, right? There's two sides of every single story.
Yes.
I think that's a cliche, but in reality, completely decisive, right? So even the media outlets are kind of at war with each other, right? So there's like the whole the Fox News camp, and then there's the CNN camp.
That's correct.
Okay, so if we can't rely on either one of these things to provide us good and accurate information, then who can you really trust?
I use the BBC, but
yeah.
You're bringing up a great point, and so we just had Father's Day, and I went to see my dad, and we had a little family thing, and the toast was, Dad, in these day and times, there's a couple of things I really remember from being a kid. You might not remember this, but I remember one, being in your car, in your driveway, and my parents broke up, so I didn't see my dad all the time, but I saw him often enough. And there was and this is like during Reagan's presidency in the early 80s, and there is an ad on NPR about the government and how that's a government ad. It's about how cannabis is gonna fucking lead to the end of you. It's gonna be the death of you. So it was a government-funded anti-cannabis ad. Mm-hmm. And I hear it, I look at my dad, I'm like, I am never going to go near that stuff. And my dad looks at me and goes, don't believe everything the government has to tell you. I'm telling you now, you don't have to believe that ad. And I thought to myself two things. Well, one, I don't have to believe everything I hear on the radio or television. 2, my dad's cool. He can smoke weed. Right? Like, so then, and that was the first toast. And then the second toast was, around the same time, I remember seeing something on TV where the actor was in blackface, and my dad was like, "Whoa, that is not cool." As a young kid, at this point I'm probably 10 years old, he sat me down and told me the whole story about blackface and black actors not being able to act, and he told me the story about Sambo and like culturally integrated like racist stuff. And he's like, that shit is there, and you gotta be careful about it for the rest of your life. And so I was really thankful for that, and I let him know that. And when I brought it up with some friends, I'm like, wow, that's cool. But
Yeah.
I didn't know about that stuff. And my dad never said anything about that.
Yeah. No, I never got to talking to you about it, really. I mean, I never got to talk to you about much of anything, though. My dad was just absent for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was there, like my parents were together, but I never really got any life lessons, nothing like that. Yeah. But, so I came up with this thing on my own. I was just like, I just don't believe shit. I barely read books. I mean, like, the books that I do is solely for entertainment, nothing referential. Like, I just don't believe anything. Because the other aspect about that is that, what is language? Language is shit that we made up. Like, humans made up everything that exists in this planet as we know it, right? The language that we speak, the time that we go by, the way that we understand things, the currency that we use, it's all man-made.
Yep.
The words that we're spouting are just noises that we've decided mean certain things, and that our brains interpret them as such. So everything is just bullshit. Doesn't matter. Everything is fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just whatever you want it to be. It's like money. It's money only matters how much you believe in it. There's no actual thing that is of value behind it. The paper currency is just how much you believe it.
Yeah.
It is.
That is bullshit. Like, go back to the barter system.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not trying to overthrow our government or anything. I don't care. I just I let it be what it is. It's working, kind of. I mean, I'm okay. I'm doing all right. Not complaining. But when I go off on my deep ends, I'm just like, yeah, that's where it goes. It goes dark. So let's get a little more light-handed, light-hearted. Little Wing.
Little Wing. This is the one cut. Sometimes I feel like
Should have been cut.
well, it's just like it doesn't sound like the rest of the songs. There's a lot of reverb.
I feel like they were trying too hard to change it.
Yeah.
And it was just such a good song. So it's like, well, where do you go with this? I mean, you're already a blues rock band.
Yeah.
How do you change a amazing blues rock song?
I just wouldn't touch the song, and everyone covers it.
Right. I mean, if you're going to cover it, okay, fine. Everyone has covered this song and a number of Jimi Hendrix other songs. But when you try to interpret it as your own, kind of. I mean, you can say it was them trying to do an homage because he had just recently passed away.
But you know what's really cool? The vocals. The two of them singing together.
Yeah. Yeah. Their harmonies are great.
Yeah.
Because they're not specifically tight together.
No, they're just...
But they're just I think Bobby's got this wildness about him, right? He just puts it out there a little farther than he should be at, but it works. And then Eric's kind of more subdued, more kind of
Well, Eric's English and Bobby's from Memphis.
I wonder if that had anything to do with it. Yeah, but see, I like Bobby singing a lot. I'm going to try to listen to some more stuff that he's been in, because I want to kind of hear where he came from and where he went and so forth.
Yeah. Bobby got down on his luck, and he sold his publishing to Layla, because he wrote half these songs, and Clapton found out a year later, and a couple of years later, he's like, that's bullshit, that those are Bob's, and he bought it and gave it to Bob.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's cool.
That's the good story. That's the good Clapton.
And that's like one of the only positive things that have come out of this whole band. It's too late.
All right, so this is the one that you can watch the video for the Johnny Cash show too.
That's good.
That's kind of funny.
Oh, that was a cover too.
Yeah.
Oh, the past 3 songs have been covers.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, the DJs all in a row. I'm sure they wasn't on purpose, but it just happened that way. And then, of course, now.
The tour de force.
Yes.
Where do you want to go with this? So there's something interesting here. I don't know if you read it in Wikipedia, but it was going to be a ballad.
It was going to be a ballad. Oh, as in like took a turn down like.
Clapton was going to play it. You know, like I don't know if you when he did that Unplugged record, Clapton.
Okay.
He did like a acoustic version of Layla,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very slow. And that was the original arrangement.
Okay.
And Dwayne Allman's like, hey man, we could rev this up and we could play some licks and stuff. And obviously they did it. And it's a really amazing 2-guitar song where there are these chords that go down. It's like this descending chord pattern. And then there's this lick on top of it that it's impossible to do with one guitar player and have it sound right. It's really cool.
Oh, okay. The other thing I think is weird about this song is that I can't think about it right now. I don't know where they were at the time that they were putting this record together. I don't know if they already had it in mind that this may be the single, but they put it all the way at the end of the record, like a double album. So like, because like I knew that song. This is the only song I knew off this album going into the session, like listening to this record. And I was just like, where the fuck is Layla? It's like I've gotten fucking half an hour into this thing. I haven't heard Layla yet.
Yeah. And the fucking album's named after this, plus a box of chocolates.
Right.
Clapton lost all his teeth. He was such a junkie and he would eat candy, so there was always these something in assorted sweets.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the title came from.
Oh. What?
It was some British candy.
What was it?
Like a Whitman sampler.
Right.
I mean, it's top 10 lick in rock and roll music.
Yeah. Easily, I think. As far as most distinguishable,
Yeah.
like immediately,
Like Brown Sugar or the Rolling Stones. Like you hear that first lick, you're like, oh my god.
right.
You know what
Okay.
Goodfellas?
I'm gonna try to go Goodfellas on it. Now, what you missed was like an almost immediate break from the last note in Layla, in that rockin' part, right into this piano. It's so weird. It's 2 separate songs. Now, like, thinking about other collaborations that were kind of like this, like the Beatles, A Day in the Life.
Yes.
2 separate songs melded together, works amazingly. Very 2 distinct parts.
Yes.
That they managed to meld together. This song, I don't feel did that. I mean, it obviously works. I mean, it's a good song.
Do you mind backing it up so we can hear it?
Sure. Like right to the end of the rock, right?
Yeah, I want to hear some rock. Yeah.
Okay, screaming guitar. Because they're trying to find when they're going to break. See how the band just stopped? And then they were like, okay, let the piano go.
It was 2 different recording sessions, I bet.
That's possible.
Yeah.
See, you know what? For me personally, I would have left it right there. Seriously, I would have left it right there.
Yeah.
Like the other 3 minutes of like that progression.
It's yeah, it goes on.
Yeah, like if they had just done that whole rocking section and just transitioned just the way they did, like just just like what we listened to, and then just went out on that.
Yeah.
Kind of like Epic by Faith No More.
Yeah.
How they just use the piano at the end of the song. Now, I think the piano part that they use in that is actually what he plays like in the song, but they
I
just
hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
It would have been nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little 2 bars.
right, because then that would have been even more gripping, like listenership wise, because like then you would have been like, oh, I kind of want more of that, but then they don't give it to you. You know, but it's that like kind of like
Extended
that
version,
little
you get
letdown.
that. Yeah.
That little letdown from a really big song. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's just me.
I can't argue with that. Although there's some guitar porn on there, though.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's.
Look, guitar porn is just so gratuitous. And for this band, on the rest of this record, you've already had so much.
You have.
You know, you've already blown your load so many times.
Yeah. You're over. To your point, it's on side 4 as well.
Right. Yeah. It's just like God. I'm like rubbed raw at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah. They do save it, because then even like what I was saying, like whatever. I'm what? How many years after the fact now? 50 years after the fact. But they save it with Thorn Tree in the Garden, which is a beautiful song.
A weird little song though too.
Weird.
One microphone. They're all they're in a circle.
They're sitting in a circle together, right? Yeah. This kind of sounds.
And there's some weird Bobby Whitlock vocals at the end too. Do you know what this song is about?
Love.
Bobby Whitlock used to play in like the Wrecking Crew, whatever that.
Muscle Shoals.
No. Leon Russell's band. Leon Russell had a house called The Plantation. A whole bunch of musicians that went on the Mad Dogs tour. And it's a bunch of drummers. And one of the other drummers, I can't remember which one it was, but Bobby Whitlock had a puppy. And they all had to go on tour, and no one knew what they were going to do with the puppy. So the drummer, like, to the puppy.
Oh.
And Bobby Whitlock rightfully was super upset.
Yeah.
And
what the fuck is wrong with you?
yeah, well, this is there were a lot of other things going on.
Oops.
And so Bobby wrote the song for the dog.
Here's a quote. According to Dowd, was the perfect stereo recording. Being
A circle.
yeah, sitting around in a circle with the one mic. Now you got me all intrigued by the whole dead puppy scenario. It was funny though, listening to this for the first time, like, you know, realizing how long it was going to take to get to Layla, and then like, you know, after how long it was taking, I was just like, oh, they're going to put it at the end. Okay, they wanted to put it at the end, but then they have this one last song, this acoustic song, follow it up.
It's bananas.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's a good little trick, you know, kind of like. But that's where I'm saying, like, you know, I didn't know historically, like, where that song stood in their whole like catalog, as far as this, like, are people going to anticipate this song? You know, like, obviously they do now, because, like, you know, even years after it was released, and people started to really start to listen to and respect and seek out Derek and the Dominos, even though now they have disbanded. That song had caught on. That song had become very popular. So for a new listener, even years after the fact, they're going to put this record on, and they're going to realize, oh, that song's all the way at the end.
Yeah. You get Bell Bottom Blues #2 though. That's a little bit of a nugget,
yeah, it grabs you for sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, as far as
right.
Just like, you know, being single orientated, being, you know, driven to purchase something by the first thing that you heard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you kind of want that somewhere in the beginning to be like, oh, I got my fix, kind of.
Yeah, it's usually the first song or the third song, or yeah.
It's usually on the first side.
Yeah.
and this is a double album, and then it's all the way at the end. Okay.
And then they did the tour, and they started recording a second album, and the drugs were taking a little bit too much hold, and
the
then
wheels fell off.
Yeah, Clapton and the drummer. You know, we never got into the drummer, but Clapton and the drummer's telling Clapton how to tune his guitar, and Clapton's like, "No, I'm out."
We talking about a drummer. Stick to your sticks.
Yeah, and Jim Gordon went off and had a career, and then lost his mind.
Oh my God! With the
rotting in jail, making money off of Layla.
Imagine that. That's kind of, but you know, how much does money really matter to him because he's schizophrenic?
Well, it's probably better. He killed his
He's
mother with
still
a hammer.
there. According to this, he's still
Yeah.
locked up, so he's not better.
Well, you know why he's in jail? Not because of the mental problems. He showed up at his mom's house and killed her with a hammer.
With a hammer. Yeah. No, I saw that.
That's the murder part.
Yeah, no, okay. Well, so he's locked up for life for murder,
Yes.
not because he's schizophrenic.
Correct.
Not for, okay. I read this wrong.
Maybe there's probably some of column B in there
Well,
too.
'cause-
But
okay.
he's in a federal pen. He's not in
Right.
a mental hospital.
Yeah. Well, because it says here, in 1983, Gordon, an undiagnosed schizophrenic at the time, killed his mother with a hammer during a psychotic episode. He was confined to a mental institution in 1984, where he remains today.
Maybe I have it wrong, but I think
It's only Wikipedia, it doesn't fucking matter.
yeah.
Unless you want to go seek him out, seek out
I know.
where he's
Jim Gord, Carl Rattle on bass, played with Clapton through the 80s. Until he drank himself to death. Carl Rattle played with Clapton until the 80s, through the 80s, and then he drank himself to death. Who else?
Dwayne Allman died a year after this recording.
Yeah. And who's left? So Bobby Whitlock, he's still around. I saw Bobby Whitlock at the Narrows Center for the Arts.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
When was that?
Probably 5 years ago.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, but he hasn't really done much. I mean,
Wow, he's had some ups and downs. So after
Right.
the Dominos, he put out a couple of solid solo records. And, like, honestly, like, George Harrison played on it, Clapton played on it. Like, he had some players on his albums.
Yeah.
And then I, for whatever reason, I think he hung out with Donovan for a while. I think he dated his daughter or something.
They all hung out with Donovan.
Yeah. Something to do with Donovan, but yeah.
He was the one getting everyone turned on to acid back then.
Yeah, pretty hot stuff, man.
Crazy times, man.
Yeah,
This is a banger. This is a banger of record, man.
it sure is.
Thank you for suggesting it and to saying that you wanted to sit with this one. Quite a bit of a learning experience for me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Tom Dowd. There's a great documentary of on Tom Dowd where he goes through the making of this album, and he actually brings the master tapes up on the board.
Oh, that's great.
And he's like, all right, here's Dwayne, here's Eric, and here's this, and it's just fantastic.
Was that a classic albums?
I think so. I want to say.
Those are great, man. I mentioned on one other of my episodes with Hillary Jones how classic albums is the shit. And yes, it is on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime,
You get all of them.
you can get, I think there's about all of them. I saw Beach Boys, Black Sabbath, fucking all of them. Frank Zappa,
Yeah.
Lou Reed's on there. That's a fun one.
Yeah. So you should, if you haven't seen that one, it's pretty interesting. And he's like, yeah, I'd walk in the morning and they'd still be there, just bags out open. Yeah.
Right. So many drugs.
So if you haven't, the Patty Boyd Wonderful Tonight autobiography is fantastic. And the Bobby Whitlock's got a book too. It's pretty good. Like, you don't read them all. You read the parts that are relevant.
Right. So a little bit about you. So we're still in the pandemic thing. So
That's right.
there are no live shows happening.
Mhm.
What is? I mean, the band's gonna
The band?
play when
Yes.
we can.
So for like the last 3 weeks, we've been rehearsing.
The record's already out.
The record's on Spotify right now. We haven't done
And iTunes.
Yeah, iTunes. We haven't done anything to support it at all. No gigs, no nothing. So
No virtual streaming shows.
none of that. Yeah, we looked into like how do you like play live like virtually, and I don't know. We didn't come up with much.
Yeah, it's a little tough.
If it's a band, it's tough. So once we get going again, we'll start playing shows. I mean, we play in Providence at Nick and E's. We play, the Parlor. We played at the rooftop at the G a few times.
Mhm.
We played in Newport at the Poorhouse. So we'll play all over.
Cool.
Yeah, once it's out. Once we can play again, we'll start trying to push that a little bit. And we are going to start rehearsing the new songs to record too. So we just put out as much as we can put out, as long as it's fun for us.
Yeah. Sounds good, man. The record sounds great, by the way. Just want to mention that I have listened to it. I've been listening to it. I have it on iTunes.
Awesome.
Because it is on Spotify, but it's also on iTunes. As far as I know, it's on all streaming platforms.
Yeah.
So wherever you get your music, you can get it.
Just put in the Alstead. Yeah.
Did it come up?
Awesome. Songs of
man.
Lies.
Songs of Lies.
And it's a companion piece to the book by Nelson Taylor, Far From Home.
Oh, okay. I forgot to ask you about that. Because I wanted to talk to him.
Yes.
Like not to disrespect you at all. I'm saying that I've asked him years ago to be on this show. Because I just think he's just a great talker. But what is that book out? Is it coming out? What is the deal with that?
I believe he's so I thought it was done, and I think he's dived back in. He did a retreat with one of his mentors where he went up for 3 days, and there's 6 people, and you all, the 6 of you that are sort of students, the mentee, if you will, they sort of workshop one of their chapters or something they wrote, and they get all feedback from everybody. And so I think he was really inspired with all the feedback he got on the one piece he shared. So he's sort of revisiting some of them. So I think in his mind he still has a little bit of editing to do to finish it. But in my mind, you always have to draw a line at some point and just say, hey, let's just do that.
It's done.
We are, part of the vision is to have sort of a handout, right? So Nelson envisions, and there's a word for this in literary circles, where you have sort of a pamphlet with a little novella, and it maybe in the back has the QR code for the album, but it would be a small novella of a piece of the book, and we'll play gigs and we'll hand them out and that sort of thing. We did one show at the Pump House before this all went to hell with COVID, and Nelson got up and he read for 2 minutes, a really short piece, and then we busted into the song and did the whole set, and everybody loved it. So I'm really encouraged to get back into it as soon as they open it up.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, I hope you can. I hope you do. Yeah,
right on, man.
Happens. Rob, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, man.
Appreciate it.
Love it, James. Take care.
You too.